Well, a very good evening and welcome along to the Under the Sun channel. I'm Suraj and this is a big fixture as Tottenham Hotspur visit the Etihad Stadium as Manchester City await them here in this big fixture in the weekend here. Manchester City versus Tottenham. We all know what happened last season when Ange Postecoglou rocked up and absolutely smashed up Pep Guardiola 4-0 at the Etihad Stadium. But this time it will change with a new manager at the helm here for Tottenham Hotspur. Both managers making 2 changes each to their lineup. So that's fantastic to see a bit of change here, especially with Manchester City going very attacking with 2 changes in the forward line with Ryan Cherki and Omar Marmoush as the 2 attackers instead of Bernardo Silva and Jeremy Doku. Here's Haaland, who scored again against Williams. A brilliant pass already. You can see Marmoush is just trying to break his neck and get forward as quickly as possible. For Spurs, Cuti Romero remains as the captain. Took over from Son this season, and then it's a big call, isn't it, from Thomas Frank. They came so close to beating PSG in the UEFA Super Cup, but their hearts were absolutely ripped apart by PSG in the last 8 minutes. But both teams coming off of very good opening day victories. Manchester City beat Wolves by 4-0 away from home, and Spurs won 3-0 against Burnley. So both teams with clean sheets and plenty of confidence heading into this contest. Manchester City, who had one of their worst times under Pep Guardiola last season, will be hoping that this season is a lot different here. Tijjani Reinders laying it off beautifully, and Ryan Cherki just trying to slip that into Erling Haaland, who had made that run very cleverly there. Haaland, of course, who scored a brace against Wolves, and good to see that Tottenham Hotspur aren't really backing down here with a back 5. You know that Thomas Frank with Brentford likes to play with the 3 at the back and the 2 wing backs against the big sides, but he's gone with the traditional back 4 with Jed Spence as left back and Pedro Porro on the right. And of course, Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero as the 2 centre-halves. And in midfield, we got Pape Sarr, Rodrigo Bentancur and Joao Palhinha. Here's Oscar Bob, the Norwegian, who has suffered that terrible leg break last season, in pre-season that too. So it's good to see him not just get his way back in, but starting games regularly as that right winger. Foul surely there, but referees saw it play on. Here's Van de Ven, finds Bentancur. Spence again. Spence was outstanding against PSG, man. I thought he was so good in terms of physicality, reading the game, matching the pace and power of the PSG forwards. But this will be a different proposition because he's got a very tricky winger in Oscar Bob. He can go both ways, and he's a very clever operator there on that right-hand side. Still no place for Phil Foden, but good news for Manchester City and Pep Guardiola is Rodri is back on the bench here after his injury, so you can almost expect that he will be back in the action, and once he and Tijjani Reinders are the 2 midfield players, I think City go up a level here. Jed Spence fouled by Rico Lewis. 2 academy players for Manchester City in Oscar Bob and Rico Lewis. Here's Joao Palhinha dropping between the 2 centre-halves. Finds Jed Spence now. Good pace shown there by the left back. Again, that'll be the tricky decision for Thomas Frank once Destiny Udogie is back fit, whether or not he persists with Jed Spence or goes with the natural left footer in Destiny Udogie. Here's Gonzalez. Again, City go back to what they do best. Keep the ball and keep popping it around the Spurs press. Again, Spurs not too open here. They're going with Pape Sarr as the number 10 almost, but they are playing a 4-3-3. But Sarr offers so much on and off the ball. That's a brilliant spread out to the Egyptian Omar Marmoush. He's up against Pedro Porro. Marmoush with the poor pass, really. And Spurs had an opportunity to break there, but the pass wasn't completed. Will be a throw-in for Manchester City. Well, all eyes and all the chance went towards Tijjani Reinders in that first game. He was absolutely brilliant. I mean, I don't remember a debut in the Premier League as good as that since I remember Eden Hazard coming to Chelsea about 13 years ago. Here's Stones. Good to see him back, but as soon as I say that, he loses his footing and gives the ball away. Vicario goes long immediately. Talked about that centre-back partnership. Manchester City have spent money in that department because they're expecting that Stones may not be fit, maybe would be pushed out of the door. And I say that with the utmost respect because of what John Stones has achieved at Manchester City, but he just couldn't stay fit, and the huge call was made of bringing James Trafford back to Manchester City, and he certainly has displaced Ederson as the number one at the Etihad Stadium. Talked about Victor Reis and Abdulkadir Kusanov, the Uzbekistan centre-half, who started his very first game in the Premier League against Chelsea last season. He was bought in the winter window, and I remember that debut very clearly because Chelsea did lose that game, but he started off in the worst possible fashion. In the second minute or so, he made a terrible error which gave Chelsea the lead. But from there, Manchester City just showed their class and won that game 3-1. Kusanov since then has not been able to establish himself as one of the City centre-halves. And a free kick here for Spurs. Will be Pedro Porro. Again, Richarlison, Romero and Van de Ven to aim at. He's gone towards the far stick, towards Bentancur. Heads it towards the centre of the goal. Well cleared away by Haaland. Norwegian centre-forward shows off his defensive acumen. Omar Marmoush was certain that he was fouled there, but play goes on. That ball was fizzed in. Very well taken by Mohamed Kudus, who was brilliant against Burnley. Almost feels like Kudus has become their star player despite just arriving late in the window. And then he's just established himself. He can play as that number 10. He can play on the right-hand side. He's a versatile forward. Unbelievable ball carrying and strength that he has got. Now just needs to add a bit of end product, which he did against Burnley, to be fair. But it's again in the big games that he has to do it. And this is the perfect test for him. Thomas Frank, of course, lost both games against Manchester City when he was the manager of Brentford last season. A 2-1 and a 3-1 defeat. Now has an opportunity with better players. I say better players, even though Brentford finished much higher than Spurs last season. But it's a different proposition. It's a different Spurs, that's for sure. The new manager, Haaland, dropping very deep, and he's lost the ball and commits the foul. It's the foul. The two number 9s collide. There's Haaland. Very unselfishly drops in his own half to try and link up the play. Instead, he concedes the foul on Richarlison, and Spurs now have a free kick about 25 yards away from goal. 20 yards, really. Good win there from Cuti Romero, who's followed Haaland all the way. Wins the ball. Richarlison pinches it, and Haaland with a reckless challenge. Could have very easily been a yellow card. I think Haaland might just escape that as it's his first foul, and it's the best chance of the game so far with a free kick here for Tottenham Hotspur. James Trafford. He's quite the presence in goal. Now, Spurs have a left-footed option of Mohamed Kudus and a right foot of Pedro Porro standing over the ball here. Might just favour the right foot of Pedro Porro. I think Kudus would also like to have a bit of a chance here to try and bend this around the wall. It's not enough distance to go up and over. He has to take the pace off completely and almost rely on the swerve on the ball. Ruben Diaz, Omar Marmoush and Ryan Cherki on the wall. Looks like Pedro Porro will be favoured. Kudus is eyeing this as well. It's Pedro Porro against the wall. Pedro Porro again! What a save! Hit the side netting instead. Really cracked that well. The right back. Again, very disappointing free kick. Getting no height on it, but falls straight back to him. And that time he struck it really well. On the flush. Wasn't going to trouble Trafford from there. Decent start this from Spurs. They have not been overawed by the situation whatsoever. And they are looking to put pressure on Manchester City. Not allow them to settle on the ball here. Big fan of Thomas Frank. I mean, what he has done with Brentford has been nothing short of remarkable. And now Brentford will really feel the pain because they've not just lost their managers, but they've lost some big players. Oh, it's a terrible back pass and a chance. Oh, that was a big opportunity there. Omar Marmoush. His left-footed effort from a very tight angle. Just dribbles almost across the line there. Pedro Porro with horrific defending there. Just complete that back pass header was so bad. Vicario was committed. And he was just hoping that Marmoush couldn't find the corner. Pedro Porro, after nearly scoring at the other end, with a very big mistake. Spurs get away with that one. This game's starting to open up now. And it's all about risk and reward ratio there. Pedro Porro did the wise thing there for the back header, but not enough on it. Pep Guardiola, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's gone 2 seasons in a row without winning the league title in his managerial career. So this would be an anomaly for him. It's another good burst there from Ait Nouri, but he's lost the ball. Now trying to go all the way back. Spurs not taking chances again. Going long. Trying to bypass the Manchester City press as Richarlison tries to hold the ball off. Again, Richarlison starting back-to-back games as the starting number 9 over Dominic Solanke. It's a big call there. Old Trafford's made another mistake here, but he gets away with that one. What is happening here? Schoolboy errors going on here as Mohamed Kudus now up against Ruben Diaz. Kudus with the ball in towards the far stick. Way too much on it. And out for a goal kick. Everybody needs to just settle down here. Pedro Porro made a mistake a couple minutes back. It was a shocking one. James Trafford nearly doing the same. Rico Lewis's pass has to take it first time. Oh, it's such a bad mistake there from the England goalkeeper. It's almost like City are so used to Edison's brilliance on the ball that they'll have to try and find a new way, because there's no real keeper in world football who has the ability as Edison does. He's a different kind of keeper, James Trafford. Here's Ruben Diaz. Ait Nouri. Reinders. Can Reinders put under real pressure? There's Spurs relentless in the press, forcing City to make errors. Oscar Bob helps out. Now in his own half here, deep in territory. Very good pass there from Oscar Bob. And here's Gonzalez looking to turn. Again, he came under so much pressure, Nico Gonzalez, because of his big money move last season from Porto to Manchester City. Nearly £60 million, but didn't really establish himself. Or might be a foul there. Oscar Bob showing great feet there. And then the switch of play, which is very well read by Pedro Porro. Charlison trying to hold the ball, but Nico Gonzalez does well here. Here's Marmoush. Omar Marmoush goes around the outside. Maybe another tight angle shot there. Good save from Vicario. City looking to turn it on here. They're so dangerous in the attacking third where they can just switch things on so quickly. Omar Marmoush completely sells Pedro Porro there and then try to just lift that over Vicario. Here's Ruben Diaz now. City look a lot more settled. Clip ball over the top to nobody really. Out for a goal kick. Spurs can settle down now. Again, from Pep Guardiola's point of view, he'll be hoping that this centre-back partnership of Ruben Diaz and John Stones can stay fit for the course of the season. Ruben Diaz has shown his robustness, but I think John Stones has picked up far too many injuries in the last 3 or 4 years to be considered a reliable option. But when he's fit, I mean, Pep Guardiola will never really drop him, will he? Good pass there onto the right-hand side. Kudus is so strong, the Ghanaian international. Does well there. Ait Nouri goes all the way back. Here's Jet Spence now. Finds Bentancur, and this is where Spurs will have to just keep hold of the ball and invite the City press and try and play around them. We haven't seen too much of Pape Matar Sarr so far. The Senegalese international. Always when I see him on the pitch, he really does impress me because so many good facets of his game. He's young, but he's got an experienced head over his shoulders. He's played a lot of games for Spurs now, and you can see why Thomas Frank does trust him a lot. They had the big blow of James Maddison picking up the ACL injury, and they haven't really been able to go into the market and get that number 10. They tried to get Morgan Gibbs-White and Ebre Eze, but neither one of them worked. So Spurs might have to find different solutions here. Van de Ven goes back to Vicario. Haaland with a good press here. Bentancur looks very comfy on the ball, doesn't he? Beautifully played. Nice 1-2, one-touch passing. Bentancur all over the pitch there. Oh, surely Kudus will be offside. Yep, Pape Sarr was offside on that occasion. Kudus just dropped short, and Pape Sarr made that forward run. Shows you the fluidity of the Spurs play. Oh, here Ryan Ait Nouri has just pulled up here. Bad news for Manchester City. The big money left back signing from Wolverhampton Wanderers has pulled up, and I don't think it's from a challenge here. Pep Guardiola will not be happy. He's got plenty of options on the bench, that's for sure. I'm very surprised that Josko Guardiola hasn't featured in this game today. Nathan Aki, of course, a more than handy deputy, I would say. Oh yeah, it doesn't look good here for Ait Nouri. The reaction says it all. 15 minutes on the clock. Manchester City suffer their first setback. And it's their Algerian left back, Ryan Ait Nouri. You can see Nathan Aki furiously warming up here. And camera shot of the Ballon d'Or winner, Rodri Hernandez. How they missed him last season. Big miss there. And it felt like the entire of Pep Guardiola's system hinged on Rodri's availability. And when Rodri came out of there, just went all good. Went all pear-shaped. And he'll be itching for him to come back here. Let's have a look as to what the challenge was. Oh, he just lands awkwardly, doesn't he? Kudus and Ait Nouri. Yep, you can see that standing leg just hits the turf and might have just twisted that ankle. That is a really sore one for Ryan Ait Nouri. I really hope that it's not ligament damage there. But I don't think he will continue here. Pep Guardiola would be wise to take preventive and precautionary measures here and take him off and bring on the likes of Nathan Ake. Ryan Ait Nouri will try and battle this one out, but we'll wait and see whether or not he can continue. It was a really sore one, but he's back onto his feet, which is the good news for Manchester City. Will he come on? He looks ready to come on. They're tough as nails, the footballers. Absolutely no doubt about that. Now you can see Ait Nouri just testing that ankle on the sidelines there. City temporarily down to 10. Here's John Stones now. Ruben Diaz back to James Trafford, and very little to separate the two teams with over 15 minutes played. Marmoush, brilliant from him. How quickly he just drops that shoulder. Such a dynamic forward. Of course, purchased from Eintracht Frankfurt in the winter window last season. Scored a hat-trick against Newcastle, if I remember correctly. Just started his career very well at Manchester City and then just started to struggle a little bit. Now looking to establish himself as one of the cornerstones to Pep Guardiola's Manchester City this season. Here's Oscar Bob up against Jet Spence. Again, Bob doesn't have the pace, but he's got the trickery. Looking to combine with Rico Lewis. Here's Oscar Bob again. He's picked his head up to find Marmoush. Again, it's Omar Marmoush, beaten away by Vicario. Haaland cannot pounce. Spurs survive here. Again, it's too poor there from Spurs. They can't keep hold of the ball. Bentancur wins the ball back, but he can't find a pass here. City have Spurs on the ropes here. Good strike there from Marmoush. Vicario should have done better in terms of punching that out of danger. Instead, it came straight to Haaland. And fortunately for Spurs, Haaland couldn't get any sort of contact on the ball. From Spurs' point of view, they would have hoped that the first 20-25 minutes goes exactly like this. Make sure that City don't get that early goal and try and put some pressure on them. Again, Trafford forced to go long here. Here's Oscar Bob with an immaculate first touch. Here's Reinders driving forward. Tijani Reinders. Tijani Reinders again. Good block. Well, he is not shy to shoot there. Tijani Reinders full of confidence after that performance against Wolves. And that's something that Spurs will have to watch out for. Haven't seen too much of Ryan Cherki so far. There is Cherki, as we said, trying to put the pressure on the Uruguayan Rodrigo Bentancur, who's on the ball now. Pedro Porro. Again, good pass. Every time you can see them just trying to pick out Mohamed Kudus as much as possible. Nathan Ake is still warming up, and it does look like Ryan Ait Nouri is struggling, and Pep Guardiola really needs to take him off as quickly as possible here. You don't want to aggravate that injury. Again, good pass between the lines there. On the left-hand side, can he keep it in here, Marmoush? He can't. You can see what Nico Gonzalez was trying to do immediately on the turn. Play that first time. Well, Spurs have matched Manchester City pretty well in this opening 20 minutes. They've made sure that City haven't really dominated territory and possession. It's not like they've camped in the opposition territory for long periods of time. And Manchester City are ready to make their first change here. Looks like Nathan Ake has been called to the bench. It's a good challenge there. Here's Cherki now, who got his goal on debut for Manchester City. Scored that fourth. Again, between the lines, City look excellent here. Beautiful ball at the outside of the boot there, but Haaland hadn't made that run between the two centre-halves. Again, Jet Spence under a bit of pressure, does very well to hold off the ball, and it's out for a goal kick. Nathan Ake, former of Chelsea colours, has done so well for Manchester City since that move from Bournemouth, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, definitely Bournemouth. £40 million. I remember Thomas Tuchel wanted him at to bring him back to Chelsea. Instead, he went to Manchester City, and since then he hasn't looked back. Yep, Ryan Aït-Nouri, his afternoon comes to an end prematurely. It's really unfortunate for the Algerian. And it's a change in tactics here because Ryan Aït-Nouri is more of a ball carrier and he's got that nimble-footedness about him. Nathan Ake is more of a traditional defender. I think City's system might just be tweaked now with the introduction of Nathan Ake. We might see them go into a back three with Rico Lewis now inverting into midfield. Wait and see how that setup is, or whether or not City decide that just keep the shape. Is that Pep Lijnders, formerly of... He was Klopp's assistant, wasn't he? And the manager of one of the RB teams there, either Leipzig, I want to say Salzburg. Yeah, I think it was Salzburg. Seems to me that he's been sacked there, but he's found a very good gig as the assistant manager of Manchester City. So, unfortunate for Ryan Aït-Nouri, his Manchester City home debut comes to an end. Just over 20 minutes on the clock. He isn't being carried out, or he is limping, so I think the news is that he might be out for a couple of weeks with that ankle injury. Unfortunate for him, but that's the way the game goes here. Nathan Ake ready to replace. Nathan Ake comes with so much experience now, a full-time Dutch international. No longer the Chelsea kid, he is the Manchester City man now. Great utility player. I mean, he can play as the left-sided centre-back. Can play as one of the traditional centre-back if they want to play in a 4. Also can play left-back as well. So, very much accomplished playing across the back 4. Well, halfway through the first half, this is going according to plan here for Thomas Frank. Again, Richarlison holding the ball off well. Jet Spence is making the run here. Brennan Johnson for the first time finds Jet Spence. Goes back to Johnson. Heavy first touch. Out for a goal kick. Good move there from Spurs on the left-hand side. Again, a quick release there to Brennan Johnson, who just gets the ball back from Jet Spence. Has to do a lot better there with that first touch. But that's the kind of entry into the box that Thomas Frank will want. He is an impressive man, isn't he? The way he sets out his team, the way he talks about football is very engaging. Spurs have done very well to replace Ange Postecoglou with this man. Here's Bentancur, finds Van de Ven. And goes back to Vicario. Yep, Spurs looking comfortable on the ball, but this is where they need to progress it, and Bentancur is a huge part of that. Spurs missing Kulusevski as a creative influence. Here's Jet Spence now. Richarlison has made the run. Good switch out there. Magnificent ball there from Jet Spence, but far too much on it for Kudus. On his weaker left foot as well. It's a very clever pick out. But unfortunately for Spurs, it isn't a completed pass. This is a brilliant pass. Brilliant. On his left foot. Curls that well. Just a little too much on it though. Yep, applauded by Thomas Frank. He knows that switch of play is so valuable against the City press. Manchester City had to really trouble Vicario with clear-cut opportunities. Marmoush's effort from distance being the only shot on target. Then we saw Marmoush taking advantage of Pedro Porro's misplaced back pass. But that one wasn't on target, so Spurs will be counting their lucky stars. Here's Jet Spence again. Will he go for the switch instead? Plays Brennan Johnson on the left-hand side. The Welsh international. Jen played on the right-hand side for Postecoglou. You can see now Spurs playing with a more traditional approach in their 4-3-3. Left-footed right winger and a right-footed left winger rather. Here's Van de Ven now. Palhinha. Loan move from Bayern Munich. He was very impressive at Fulham and he garnered a lot of attention. Got his big money move to the Bavarian Giants but never really settled into that, did he? He is a pure destroyer rather than a ball progressor. Another good long ball, very well head up by Kudus. I mean, Kudus' first touch there is ridiculous. It's fired in almost 50, 60 yards. Just brings that down with effortless ease. Heavy touch there from Rico Lewis, but he regains composure. Switch of play nicely onto the right foot. Again, Marmoush had so much time and space if he brought that under control. It's a very good switch out there on the right-hand side. And Marmoush has to do better there. Two shots on target for... Shots on target have been few and far in between as both teams look evenly matched here. Strong play again. Very well done there from Pape Sarr, but he's been bullied off the ball. City trying to keep the ball. Cherki with a bit of a juggle finds Ruben Diaz. Again, clever one-touch play here from City. Now they're turning it on here. On the left-hand side, it's Marmoush again up against Porro. Marmoush trying to pick out one of the City attackers. Richarlison helps out defensively. Turns into a very good pass, but City have stolen the ball back again. Here's Gonzalez. Ruben Diaz. Rico Lewis now inverting into midfield, but that's a terrible pass from the usually reliable Rico Lewis. Talked about the change in setup, didn't we, when Ryan Nuri was taken off. See a lot more of Rico Lewis as the midfielder. Jet Spence has shown a lot of attacking intentions in the first half so far. Both teams 0-0 here. Just the kind of game Thomas Frank would have been hoping for. Make it a battle, make it hard for City. And the last touch surely came off Rico Lewis there. Yes, it did. Good catch there. Rico Lewis just trying for a quick throw in there to catch out the fourth official. Talked about options on the bench for both teams. We'll come to a point where the bench will have to be used here. Again, Nico Gonzalez with a very strange pass, trying to hammer that forward. Here's Haaland again, trying to burst past, trying to dribble past 3 or 4 players. He's picked out a magnificent pass. What a save! Vicario comes out quickly off his lines as Omar Marmoush was slipped through after Erling Haaland with the most delicate of passes, splitting the Spurs back line. That's the most clear-cut opportunity that City have created in this first half so far. And Vicario has bailed them out. Here's Cherki. Again, no one really putting a challenge on him. Trying to scoop that to Haaland. What a first touch that is from Pedro Porro. Calmly deals with that and then goes long again to Richarlison. Might have been fouled there, but the referee has absolutely none of it. Here's Cherki now. Again in that pocket of space. Now the foul has been given. What a ball this was from Haaland. You don't really expect playmaking from Haaland. He does so well to win the ball back. Uses his strength and balance. Rides the challenge and then the through pass to Marmoush, who has to score. The City fans in the background were cheering. They were almost expecting the net to bulge. Instead, it's a big save. It is straight at Vicario. Marmoush has come the closest for Manchester City on 2 occasions now to open the scoring. Into the 30th minute here. 0-0 the scoreline and a free kick now for Manchester City. Ryan Cherki. Oh, this one. He'll just look to float this towards the back stick. City have got size and power in terms of Haaland, Diaz, Stones, all there. Instead, they play it short. Here's Marmoush again. Trying to clip that in as quickly as possible. Good win there from Rico Lewis. Can Spurs counter now? Gianni Reinders under pressure. Great strength there from Kudus. And he can carry now. Again, Mohamed Kudus is electrifying when he does get the ball. He's picked his head up again. Great play. Oh, he's nearly gave it that away. And Haaland, who was just trying to track back to help out defensively, if he just held his position, might have gotten to the ball there. Here's Jet Spence. The game's starting to open up a lot more now. Van de Ven. Vicario, who's made 2 saves so far, both of Omar Marmoush. Again, a long ball forward, and look at Kudus making himself an absolute menace there. Ruben Diaz does very well, though, the Portuguese centre-half. Again, such a battle there in the corner. Marmoush does well, but he's been thrown off the ball. Just over 30 minutes on the clock here. 0-0 the scoreline. Mohamed Kudus showing what he's all about. Backing into Tijjani Reinders and just eases him out the way. And from there, you just feel that Kudus can just break past anyone. And Tijjani Reinders is not having as a comfortable game as he did against Wolves. This is the Premier League after all. Here's Diaz. Nathan Ake getting his first real touch on the ball here. Can Spurs touch tight to the City attackers? Marmoush. You can see that Pedro Porro is almost following Omar Marmoush, not allowing him to turn whatsoever. Here's Spence. Brent Johnson. Spence again. Spence now switching it with his right foot. Beautiful pass to Kudus. The switch of play from Jet Spence is absolutely on every time he's got it. He has the passing range. Just shows you that the fullbacks in the Premier League have to have so many different facets to their game. Cannot be just competent in defending. You have to go forward. You should be able to even invert into midfield. The overlaps, I mean, it's very hard being a fullback in the modern game. Here's Romero. And we talked about that Super Cup loss in heartbreaking fashion for Spurs in the penalty shootout. Another long ball there from Vicario. Vicario's passing out the back has been superb in this first half. He's trying to find his teammates. John Stones had to come across and make sure that he intercepted that long ball. Pep Guardiola will be relatively pleased with the way his team have played, but he'll be expecting a lot more. Here's Jet Spence. Finds Van de Ven. Here's Kudus again. Feels like Spurs every time. Just want to give the ball to the Ghanaian star man in Mohamed Kudus. Going to try and beat his man. Nathan Ake is an excellent 1v1 defender. Kudus will have his hands full now, that's for sure. Ake's got very good recovery pace, so something that Kudus will have to be mindful about as Vicario goes long, this time to absolutely no one. Well, Spurs, having seen their bids and hopes to try and recruit in that attacking midfield option pretty much going down the drain with, saw them approach Morgan Gibbs-White. They activated his release clause. Later on, you saw Gibbs-White signing a contract extension at Nottingham Forest. And then Spurs turned their attention to Ebre Eze of Crystal Palace. And that one didn't last too long as they kind of dilly-dallied on that move. And then you saw him move to Arsenal, who play later on today against Leeds United at home. Brent Johnson picking up a needless yellow card there for kicking the ball away. I mean, I'll never understand players doing that. I mean, there are so many different ways to pick up a yellow card. Crash into somebody. Don't do that. Cannot do that. Like abusing the ref, you know that they have a thin skin. They're not going to take anything. Just like that, when you kick the ball away, even if it's 2 or 3 yards, don't give the referee an opportunity to book you. Especially for foolishness. Here's Vicario now. Van de Ven. We saw Spurs play in a back 3 against PSG. Oh, Haaland has pinched the ball here. What a poor pass that is. I think that is Tijjani Reinders. Yep, it is. Reinders looking to just scoop that in. This is a very good win from Haaland. Once he's picked the ball up, he's smashed that with a very accurate pass to Tijjani Reinders, who tries to play it first time. Has to keep it a lot more simple, the Dutchman. And Spurs being Under pressure here with the full press. That's a good header there. And now Richarlison is through on goal. Brennan Johnson has made the run. Here's Brennan Johnson! It's 1-0 to Spurs. But the offside flag has been raised. Spurs' joy has been shot round there. Applause by Thomas Frank. It's the ball over the top, not dealt with by Manchester City. Let's have a look here. Long ball forward. No, I think Richarlison is onside. You can see Ruben Dias trying to step out and he loses his balance. This is a very tight call. Brilliant pass by Richarlison. Brennan Johnson completely unmarked. Hammers that past James Trafford. They'll have a look here. And this is a marginal call. Oh, I think he is onside. He's definitely onside. Spurs have the goal here. I would be very surprised if they rule it out. You can see Ruben Dias. He's caught here. He doesn't know what to do. He believes that stepping out is the best course of action. It is very close. But from that angle, we're just showing right now, it looks like Richarlison is onside. No, that is a terrible look for Ruben Dias. Playing him on, then slipping. But what about that for Richarlison, who brought the goals against Burnley, now looking to turn provider. Come on, you got to bring out the lines now for sure. I think the goal will be given here. And the goal has been given. Spurs have the lead. It's Brennan Johnson. Well, having beaten Manchester City 4-0 at this ground last season, Spurs have come and done a job on Pep Guardiola and Manchester City. Having absorbed a lot of the pressure early on. A long ball over the top, not dealt with by the Manchester City defenders. And then Richarlison doing the right thing. Inch perfect pass. Brennan Johnson sweeps it past James Trafford. City concede their first goal of the season. And Thomas Frank will be over the moon here with this first half. Excellent from Brennan Johnson. You know about the runs that he makes into the box. He may not be the most complete winger, but he does know how to make those runs time and time again. And this is where Spurs now will have to try and lock down Manchester City for the next 8.5 minutes or so. Kolo Touré in the back of Pep Guardiola trying to rally the troops here. Have to see a lot more of Gonzalez and Tierney Reinders. The midfield has been shut down really. Haven't seen Ryan Cherky trying to play those clever passes to Erling Haaland to try and pick the lock. And here's Cherky again. He doesn't have the pace to go after Van der Ven, that's for sure. Decides to keep it short. Trafford again. Good first touch. Again decides to go long. Spurs looking to recover. It's a good cushion header there from Oscar Bob, but the ball goes out of play. Throw in for Spurs now. They're in the perfect situation now. Such a tight call, but Ruben Dias has to do better there. He's neither touch tight to Richarlison, then he decides to play offside, and then he slips. I mean, it's a three-pronged error from Ruben Dias, who's so experienced for Manchester City and Portugal, to make an error like that, fully capitalized by Tottenham Hotspur. Can they get back-to-back victories at the Etihad Stadium? Good header there. Ken Marmou's trying to get there first. Ooh, Paulini has taken a bit of a chance, and Bentancur decides to just clip that out. Ooh, again, pressure. Look at Kudus again. Kudus, can he get the touch away? James Trafford. Oh, Spurs are appealing. They're convinced that Trafford had probably got a hand to it outside the box. Attack still goes on there. Oh, might be a foul. Referee waves play on here. Tierney Reinders with a clumsy challenge on Pedro Porro. It's all happening now. We're going to have a look here. Oscar Bob now is making his way forward. Does not have the pace. Vicario decides to show his composure. Keep the pass here for Pedro Porro. He's done very well. And now we'll see the checks here. There are going to be 2 checks, that's for sure. One, the James Trafford incident, and then the Reinders foul here. Don't think he's caught Pedro Porro. We'll have a look from this angle. Oh, I think he's just raked down the side of his shin there. It is a foul, but I think the foul is just outside the box here. And when Kudus was through on goal, James Trafford comes flying in. See, he's got the ball first, but he's also made a lot of contact on Kudus, and I think Manchester City will survive this. Thomas Frank wants a bit of help from the officials here. Manchester City just losing their collective heads here. 5 minutes remain in this first half. Spurs will be delighted with how this first half has gone for them. Pedro Porro just showing him where that rake was, and that is very, very careless from Tijjani Reinders, that's for sure. Cannot make that sort of a challenge near the box. Well, the two Peps, Guardiola and Reinders, in heated conversation here. And Brandon Johnson's the difference maker. The long ball from Pedro Porro. This was a really good header from Pape Sarr. Ruben Diaz is nowhere near Richarlison, and then City are on the back foot. Spurs celebrate. Well, Thomas Frank has shown that in the big games, he does set his team up perfectly. We saw that against PSG. I mean, if you watch that 90 minutes, everybody wants to make fun of Spurs for the way that they bottled the 2-goal advantage, and fair play and fair enough, but the way that they played against PSG was very impressive. They limited PSG to very little. I think it's just that last 5 minutes, the quality of like Ousmane Dembele and the lot just started to tell towards the end. Then Gonzalo Ramos, of course, scoring in the 3rd minute of stoppage time to break their hearts and take the game to penalties. And James Trafford was reckless, wasn't he? Comes flying out. Look, he's got the ball, and it has made contact with his arm. City are very lucky, I would say. One of those challenges, either the Reinders one or the James Trafford one, could have gone against them on any other day. Jet Spence caught in a cul-de-sac here. Rico Lewis trying to put the pressure. Jet Spence doing very well. Well, Spurs about 2.5 minutes plus stoppage time away from the perfect half at the Etihad Stadium. Yes, they've conceded a few chances, but you expect that when you play against Manchester City. Omar Marmoush has been the most dangerous attacking outlet for Manchester City, that is. He's had 2 good opportunities. Hasn't really capitalized on either. Another long ball here from Spence. Pinched in midfield. Here's Reinders. Here's Cherki now. And Cherki loses his balance. Richarlison does very well now. And Spurs are 3-on-4, just trying to commit more bodies forward. And now they've got the overload here. If Spurs play this right, they can trouble Manchester City. Here's Pape Sarr. Heavy touch there. Midfielder finding himself there on the left wing of all places. And here's Cherki showing his touch and composure, but he's been bullied off the ball. Sarr so strong, and he secures possession. Well, this is very good from Spurs. Very, very good from Spurs. They've pushed Manchester City in their own half here. Thomas Frank will be absolutely delighted with this first half. Pep Guardiola will be scratching his head. He's got plenty of options on the bench, like the likes of Jeremy Doku. Another long ball there. You can see why Spurs are trying to do that, because Manchester City push out every time that Spurs do have the ball. So a long ball is the best way to try and break that press if you win the first header, like we saw with Sarr doing that. We talked about the bench strength for Manchester City. Rodri, Bernardo Silva. Another good touch there from Palhinha. On the slide, secures the ball. Here's Bentancur. Mickey van de Ven trying to drive with the ball, and that's exactly what he's done. Good play from the Dutchman. Here's Spence now. Final minute of normal time here in this first half. Here's Palhinha. Romero, no pressure on the ball here. Haaland not really pressing. Trying to go around the outside. Here's Kudus. Clever pass here. It's Paulinho who's made the overlap. Clip ball into the box. Well defended by Ruben Diaz. City looking to clear, but Spurs have won the ball back again. Here's Pape Sarr. Kudus. Oh, it's heavy touch there. Paulinho across goal. Last touch comes off the City defender. Will be a corner. Manchester City on the ropes here towards the end of the first half. Again, Spurs' press outside the City box. Relentless there. Pape Sarr has been all over the pitch, making a huge impact as we're into stoppage time here in the first half. 7 minutes of added on time here in this first half, so plenty of time for either one of these teams to create one clear-cut opportunity at least going into the half-time break. Kudus will take this corner on his left foot. Nico Gonzalez is manning the front post. It's gone towards the far stick. Referees spotting a few pushing and shoving there. You can see Cuti Romero just trying to put pressure on James Trafford, not allowing him to come out and claim the long ball. Tiani Reinders trying to protect his goalkeeper there and has to try and shove Cuti Romero out the way here. Spurs almost adopting Arsenal's tactic here where they've overloaded the far stick and now making their way inside the box here. Good ball in. Trafford stays at home. Last touch comes off Marmoush, but I think... Oh, instead it has come off Richarlison. Good work there from Omar Marmoush. Goal kick here for Manchester City. Well, Thomas Frank about 6 minutes away from the perfect half here at the Etihad Stadium. His Brentford side has caused City so many problems over the years. Likes of Mbuemo, Yohan Wissa. Oh, that's another big mistake here. Surely now, Richarlison fluffs his line. 2-0. What a mistake that is. João Paulinho scores. City, the masters of their own downfall there. James Trafford, who looks suspect with the ball at his feet, gives an absolute gift to Tottenham Hotspur just before the half-time break. The press again from Pape Sarr is absolutely brilliant. João Paulinho has shown that he can make his way forward. City, what are you doing here? Trafford takes the bait here. Oh, that's a terrible pass. The composure shown by Richarlison is good. Ball breaks kindly there to João Paulinho, who hammers that back. It's been a nightmare game here for James Trafford, who cannot pass there. Does well to try and recover, but shocking. Absolutely shocking there from James Trafford. Spurs now 2-0 to the good. What a hammer blow this is. Just before the halftime break too. James Trafford, all the eyes will be on him. It's a massive move really to go from Burnley to Manchester City, especially the way that they play. But you cannot be passing there. As a keeper, you know that what's right behind the man who's receiving the ball, and you still play there. It is reckless, it's irresponsible, it's careless. And you can see the camera panning over to Ederson immediately. Phil Foden with a wry smile on his face. That is not good, really. Again, City on the ropes here. How about this from Spurs? 4-0 last season at the Etihad Stadium. Now 2-0 going into the halftime break. The City fans looking sullen. Cannot believe what's hit them here. Thomas Frank has done an A1 job on Manchester City. Tiani Reinders. Long ball forward. That's a good pass. Can he get there first? Look at Jed Spence. That is brilliant reading of the game. He knows that his centre-back is in trouble. So he quickly comes across and helps out there. Again, Spurs are really battling for every single possession here. They want to make sure that they take this 2-goal lead into halftime. Here's Rico Lewis. Cherky. Lewis again. City looking to turn up the volume, turn up the tempo. Reinders. Rico Lewis finds Oscar Bob. And Bob unwilling to go down the line here. Now he does, and Jet Spence is so good, isn't he? He's almost daring Oscar Bob to, you know what, go down the line. I'll definitely get there. He gets there, but he concedes the corner. He feels that was a bit of a harsh decision, but it's a corner for Manchester City and an opportunity just before halftime to pull a goal back. Ryan Cherky will take this one on his right foot. He is ambipedal, isn't he, Ryan Cherky? Right and left foot, but the right-footed corner doesn't have the height on it. Spurs clear that easily off the front post. Well, 5 minutes of stoppage time have been played here. 2 minutes remain. Good switch out there from Rico Lewis. Here's Omar Marmoush now, driving at the Spurs defense. Oh, it's another poor pass, but he somehow recovers. Here's Cherky now, clip pass. It's a very good pass, but good reading of the game there from João Palhinha helping out. Again, Palhinha so strong in the challenge. City once again recover the ball high up the pitch here. Here's Reinders. Cherky, do some acquisitions looking to combine here. Here's Oscar Bob now. Clever pass. Cherky between the lines, well defended. Trying to just thread that through the eye of the needle. Look at Sarr again. Sarr and Kudus have been monstrous in terms of hounding the City players. Here's Marmoush now. Trying to stop on a dime and beat Pedro Porro. Create separation. Well defended by Cuti Romero. Again, Richarlison helping out off the ball. City. Again, Oscar Bob trying to go around the outside. Clever feet again from Bob. Trying to do far too much there. He won't get the penalty, but he'll get the corner. Final attack for Manchester City in this first half. Hasn't gone according to plan for them. They've taken it quickly here. Spurs have not really arranged their defense now. Here's Cherky. Cherky clips it towards Haaland. It's over. What a chance that was. And you would bet your house on Erling Haaland scoring there. Tottenham Hotspur caught completely napping there. Cherky with an inch perfect clip pass towards Haaland. Times his jump relatively well. And it's a free header. Haaland has to score. It's slightly behind him. That's why you can see that he's not getting the direction required. But that's the clearest opportunity for the Norwegian marksman in this first half. And that just might be that in terms of first half action. Wow. It started off as a slow burn. But we have seen so many incidents since then here. And Spurs taking a 2-0 lead at halftime. Pep Guardiola storms into the tunnel. He will not be happy with what he's seen from his players. But Tottenham Hotspur are in dreamland. Brennan Johnson scoring the first. He was adjudged offside at real time, but then War clearing that off. And then João Palhinha scoring in stoppage time after a horrific mistake from James Trafford. Halftime here at the Etihad Stadium. Manchester City 0, Tottenham Hotspur 2. Well, all eyes now will be on James Trafford as to how he recovers. And not just that, will he keep his place for the next game? Because Edison is fit and I don't think he's going to make this move this window at least. It's been a fantastic game, really. It's been thoroughly enjoyable. And it's good to see goals back in the Premier League. Well, game week 1 was a bit of a timid affair, I would say. Saw 4 goals from City and Liverpool. But other than that, goals were hard to come by. Chelsea put 5 past West Ham last night in a 5-star display at the London Stadium. Having gone a goal down to Lucas Paqueta, Chelsea quickly responded. 3 goals in the first half, 2 in the second. And Chelsea temporarily on top of the table and now usurped by Tottenham Hotspur, who look to be not just perfect in terms of 6 points out of 6. They've yet to concede a goal against Thomas Frank in the Premier League after 3 halves of football. Perfect for Frank and Tottenham Hotspur here. Going to have a look at both benches now, just to see how either manager can affect the game off the bench. And I'm sure Manchester City and Pep Guardiola will be making change at halftime. They cannot let this continue. They suffered that early blow courtesy of Ryan Aït-Nouri's unfortunate injury, which resulted in Nathan Ake making his way. But we haven't seen too much of Nico Gonzalez, Ryan Cherki. So it's marked improvement definitely available for Manchester City. We look at the bench there. They have Matheus Nunes. They have Nico O'Reilly, who's an excellent player for Manchester City. Is a left back who can play midfield too. And then we spoke about Bernardo Silva, Rodri Hernandez, Jeremy Doku and Phil Foden. So there are options for Pep Guardiola if he decides to really go after Spurs here. Now, we know about the defensive acumen of Thomas Frank and Brentford, right? Last season, they are hard to break down, especially at home. So this will be a difficult challenge for Manchester City and something that Pep Guardiola will have to try and rectify as quickly as possible. Does he sacrifice someone like maybe, say, Rico Lewis for another attacker? We'll have to wait and see. Oscar Bob has been decent, but you can see he is limited with that real burst of acceleration, especially when you're up against a very quick fullback in Jet Spence. You have to try and trick him rather than try to just hit past him and try and latch onto it. Need to see more of Tijjani Reinders, that's for sure. I mean, he's not had the influential game that he did against Wolves. A different proposition here against Thomas Frank's midfield. I thought Pape Sarr was outstanding for Tottenham Hotspur. João Palhinha and Rodrigo Bentancur doing their respective jobs. Palhinha more like a breaker of play and Rodrigo Bentancur helping out with the build-up. And Pape Sarr is just all action in the midfield area, isn't he? Mohamed Kudus has shown that he is more than a handful for Tottenham Hotspur. And then we saw, of course, Brent Johnson score. Well, Tottenham Hotspur have started this season in pretty much the perfect vein here. 3-0 against Burnley. Now 2-0 against Tottenham. 2-0 against Manchester City. Brennan Johnson and Richarlison both having 2 goals each. And João Palhinha, of course, getting 1. So Spurs are in a very good position heading into the second half. And let's have a look at the Spurs bench. I don't think Thomas Frank will be in any hurry to make the changes because what he's seen has worked to a T here. Of course, there's Archie Gray in midfield. Kevin Danso is there. Kevin Danso as the centre half. If Thomas Frank does decide to go to a back 3, he can bring Kevin Danso, who started against PSG. So that is a viable option for Thomas Frank. It's got Lucas Bergwall, Dom Solanke, Matthias Tell and Wilson Odeber. So good options on the bench for Thomas Frank if he wants to try and freshen things up in the second half. Like, these are the moments where I would love to be in the change room and listen to what Pep Guardiola has to say. We've all seen the all or nothing videos, but you might think that it might be a little bit for cameras, maybe just a little extra, But now that the cameras are not there, Pep Guardiola can absolutely lay into his players. He'll want to see more from Ryan Cherki and Reinders. These two, especially in the middle of the park, will have to do a lot more in terms of just linking the play. You see, Haaland has not had a clear-cut opportunity in terms of, on his left foot, that is. He had the opportunity right towards the end with the header, which he got that over the bar, but nobody's really slipped him in on his left foot or his right in the first half. However, he has done the opposite of slipping Omar Marmoush in, but he couldn't take advantage of it. Almost feels like if it was the other way around, if Marmoush had played the through pass and Haaland was through on goal, we might have seen a completely different complexion to this game. Instead, it's 2-0 down to Spurs, and this is, again, it's back to, almost feels like City are just not the same without Rodri, are they? Nico Gonzalez, let's have a look at his statistics in the first half. He's had 25 passes. Out of that, 22 were accurate. 28 touches, 4 passes into the final third, 1 accurate long ball. He hasn't been dispossessed, but he hasn't won a tackle either. He's been dribbled past 1. He's made 1 recovery, 1 ground duel, 1 aerial duel. Yeah, he needs to do a lot more there, Nico Gonzalez. 23-year-old Spanish midfielder. Big money in the winter window when Rodri was injured and Pep was just looking for a bit of a stopgap, really. But do you pay 60 million for a stopgap? I'm not sure, but that's the City way, maybe. Now with Reinders and Rodri, I think that will be the preferred midfield for Pep Guardiola once Rodri is back to speed. I don't think he'll want to rush him back anytime soon because, of course, that injury that he did suffer in pre-season means that Rodri now has 2 injuries in too quick time. One, of course, the ACL injury soon after winning his Ballon d'Or and then picking up that knock in pre-season. So Rodri will be eased back into action on the bench, of course. So he is fit enough. But is he match fit? We'll wait and see. Seen Pep Guardiola be ruthless in his decision making throughout his career. He does not look at names, he looks at functionality or anything else. Can you do a job for me on the day? And that's exactly what he'll be asking his players. Can you go out there and deliver for me? They'll need to try, and I'm pretty sure they're going to look to throw the kitchen sink at Tottenham Hotspur. About a couple of minutes away from the start of the second half, Manchester City. What kind of changes do you think Pep Guardiola will be making? My guess is Rico Lewis comes off. City go with a back 3 of Nathan Ake, John Stones and Ruben Diaz. And they look to try and add someone with the likes of maybe Phil Foden or Jeremy Doku to immediately add some spark, because City are missing that spark. We've seen only Omar Marmoush really showing that he is bit hungry in that final third. Need to see a bit more from Oscar Bob, because he is a nifty player, that's for sure, but he needs to do a lot more in those final third area, really. So plenty of opportunity here now for Manchester City to shuffle things around. And a lot of talk about Phil Foden again, isn't it? I mean, does not feature for Manchester City anymore. It's almost like Pep Guardiola doesn't have a starting spot for him. And in every position, be it the left winger, centre, attacking midfielder or the right winger, there are better profiles of players. It's almost like Phil Foden has to... Remember all the talk here in the media that Phil Foden is so good that he can play anywhere across the front line, even as a false 9. And I understand the hype and the build-up, because he was in that City side where they were absolutely putting everyone to the sword. But they had the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, Sergio Aguero, and then the rest. But now that the pressure was on Phil Foden to try and grab the spot, he has not been able to establish himself anywhere across the front line. And it's a harsh reality check for the England international. There's a lot of talk about Manchester City letting go likes of Cole Palmer. It's like we have Phil Foden, Palmer can go, and Palmer has just gone levels over Phil Foden. I know that Foden has all the trophies to back it up. I mean, and fair play to him. But at this stage of the career, if you have to pick between Phil Foden and Cole Palmer, is there even a debate? You look at Manchester City's next 6 fixtures. They've got Brighton away, United at home, Arsenal away, Burnley at home, Brentford away. My goodness, it's not going to be easy for Manchester City. Spurs have a decent run here with Bournemouth at home, West Ham away, Brighton away, Wolves at home, Leeds away, and Aston Villa at home. So you're looking at Spurs with a relatively decent run of fixtures, but City will have it tricky, and if they are to lose here and another couple of defeats in the next few, those rumblings start again from last season, where we all thought that was a one-off for Manchester City, having spent big in the winter window, again going in the summer and acquiring the likes of Ryan Cherky, Tierney Reinders. Not big money signings, but they are recruitments. João Palhinha scored that all-important second goal for them, and that would have given them so much comfort heading into the second half. But City did really shoot themselves in the foot there. James Trafford will have to shake that mistake off as quickly as possible, because this is where Spurs can be dangerous, because they can either continue playing the way that they have and neutralize City, or they can even, like I said, add another centre-half and shut things down even more. And I think Thomas Frank would have identified that this is working, there's no need to change. And even if City are to get one goal back, I don't think it's any cause of panic for Spurs. But they had a 2-0 lead against Paris Saint-Germain in the Super Cup, which they lost in the last 5 minutes. This time they'll be hoping that lessons were learned and they can close this game out. The two managers have taken their spot on the bench here. Thomas Frank would have had a glowing halftime team talk, but also would have stressed on the fact that concentration levels have to be at 100. You can absolutely bet that City will come out firing in the second half, try and pin Spurs back as much as possible. And Thomas Frank taking over from Ange Postecoglou after Spurs finished 17th but won the Europa League crown, as you call that, as a mixed bag season as possible, finding their way into the Champions League. City taking their time, but they have made their way out here. Let's see if they've made any halftime changes. Pep Guardiola does not look a happy man. James Trafford has walked back in goal, so he keeps his spot, but that's something that Pep Guardiola will be definitely mentioning again, that cannot happen, son. That cannot happen again. He got away with it early on in the half, and then he made that rash decision to come out of the box. On another day, he might have been adjudged as a handball, but we're all set for the start of the second half now. Manchester City attacking from right to left now. Spurs with a 2-goal advantage at the Etihad Stadium. And we're off and running for the start of the second half. Tottenham Hotspur protecting a 2-goal advantage, yet to concede in the Premier League under Thomas Frank, and have scored 5 goals in the process. Big 45 minutes coming up here for Manchester City. Can they show a new side to them, or are they retreating and reverting to their indifferent form of last season? We'll wait and see. And trying for that quick pass, quickly intercepted. Cherky has to make sure that he gets that passing right. Bentancur does well. Again, when your number 10 starts misplacing passes early on, it just feels like it might just not be your day. But City can look to do a lot better. Jed Spence, very impressive as the left back. He's kept a lid on Oscar Bob for most of the game. And he's picked the ball here. Here's Jed Spence. Play waves on here. Referee has waved advantage. Spence. You can see Richarlison is still on the deck here. City have won the ball back in their own half here. and now look to try and reset. Here's Ruben Diaz. What do you think Pep Guardiola would have told James Trafford at halftime? Would he be encouraging those kind of passes, or does he say that, as kind of things happen, you cannot make those kind of mistakes at the top level of football, that's for sure. Another long ball forward. Again, when you see Trafford playing long balls, it's a heavy touch there from Kudus. And Kudus going from right winger to left here. He's lost the ball. City now looking to build. Here's Gonzalez. Cherki. Now Oscar Bob. Cherki again. Very clever pass here. Cut back surely. It's Nathan Aki takes a touch. Nathan Aki, what a block. It looks like it is João Palhinha who comes across, and it was João Palhinha doing exactly what a midfield destroyer would do in that position. Unfortunately for Manchester City, that ball fell to Nathan Aki of all people. Takes a touch and then looks to arrow that past the goalkeeper, but the Portuguese number 6 with a slight challenge to make sure that the ball goes nowhere near goal. Here's City now trying to pin Spurs in their own box. Bob, Cherki, now looking to just increase the tempo. Spurs not able to get out here. And that's the kind of press what Manchester City and Pep Guardiola would have wanted in the start of the second half here. Here's Gonzalez. Aki again. Now Marmoush. Can he look to take on Pedro Porro? That's just brilliant from Kudus. Look at him helping out. So good from the Ghanaian. It's exactly what you want to see from your wingers, really. Because you know that you will be under pressure for the next 5 or 10 minutes in the second half, because City are going to throw absolutely everything at you. So this is where you want your wingers to be switched on and do their defensive duties. Here's Gonzalez again, dropping in between the two centre halves. Taking his time on the ball and spreads it out on the right-hand side to Oscar Bob now. It's Oscar Bob again, driving forward. It's a reckless challenge there from Bentancur, but turns out to be a fair one. And Spurs now have a chance to break. What a ball that is from Cuti Romero. Well, he goes clattering in there. Absolutely fair. And so does John Stones, who comes across and does the same. Well, Thomas Frank has pretty much seen his team do exactly what he was hoping for in that first 4 minutes. 4 or 5 minutes really, is to make sure that City don't score early in the second half. Make them sweat as much as possible. And decent touch there from Palhinha, but he's lost out here. Haaland lays it off. Again, clever. Marmoush. Again, the switch is on here. If City could play that, but instead they decide to go back and Spurs retreat back into their defensive shape. Brave move really from Thomas Frank, and he has got the rewards. As we mentioned before, he loves to play with the back 3 and the 2 wing backs away from home in the big games. He's trusted his centre halves to do the job, and they have. The two of them have kept a lid on Haaland for 45 minutes, but all Haaland needs is a sniff, is a half chance, and he can punish you. Oh my goodness, James Trafford is having an absolute nightmare with the ball at his feet. His long balls have not been accurate, and it continues, and he just hands the possession back to Spurs. And they've pretty much achieved their second half objective, the first objective really of the second half, the first 5 minutes that is, to make sure that Manchester City do not score. And there's the City bench now. Starting to warm up. Phil Foden. Again, I do not like this attitude of Phil Foden. He's had a big grin on his face every time the camera does pan to him. And there's nothing wrong in smiling really, but not when the situation is the way it is and you're joking around with the opposition substitute. Just the wrong mentality, isn't it? Anyways, City now, edge of the box. Reinders. Clever feed there from Tijani Reinders. Cleared away by Jet Spence. And Spurs really haven't gotten out of their own half in the second half. But into their defensive shape, they will be very hard to break down. Here's Cherki. Finds Oscar Bob on the right-hand side. Cherki again. Clever feed. brilliant. He's just like a ballerina, isn't he, with that twinkle toes. City win the ball back. Oscar Bob towards the fasting. Haaland again. Can't direct his header. Spurs clear away. Well, the two chances that have fallen to Haaland have both been on his head and he's not been able to take advantage of it. Here's Cherki again. It's another aimless ball, really. This is not Manchester City, is it? When you see those long, floaty balls, I mean, that is not what you associate with Pep Guardiola and Manchester City. He is absolutely fuming at the bench there. I think Pep Guardiola of old, I mean, when young Pep Guardiola might have been a lot more ruthless. You can see that he waited 5 minutes. He waited 7. Really, Osei made a huge mistake. Surely, oh my goodness, they can't capitalize. What a mess. What an absolute mess from City. They cannot capitalize after Vicario nearly does his best James Trafford impersonation there. What are you doing at the back? It is suicidal. Terrible pass to Van der Ven. City surely had to capitalize. Haaland's pass to Cherki is inaccurate and Spurs get away with that one. What are you doing? It is scandalous mistakes. Absolutely scandalous. But now Spurs for the first time into City's territory here. Here's Jet Spence. Chops in on his right foot now. Again clipped in towards this front stick and James Trafford gathers. Well, what is happening here? Manchester City could have very easily got one back here. Again, James Trafford, so unnecessary. He claims the ball, just barges off Richarlison. That pass from Vicario to Mickey Van der Ven. And you know what? Van der Ven has clearly fouled Oscar Bob there. It is a clear foul. I don't know if they go back to it, but Spurs might have gotten away with that one. We'll wait and see. As Manchester City make a double substitution, Bernardo Silva and Jeremy Doku replacing Marmoush and Ryan Cherki. Well, Doku and Bernardo Silva started against Wolves. Pep Guardiola decided to tinker that and add Marmoush and Cherki. That hasn't worked for Manchester City. And it does look like Spurs have gotten away big time. What a touch that is from Doku first up. And now Pedro Porro will have a different challenge in front of him. Marmoush is a very explosive player, but Jeremy Doku has a different kind of burst of pace, doesn't he? And he can go both ways. He's a fullback's nightmare, really. Thank you very much, Jasmine. Really appreciate you commenting on the stream. And I hope you're enjoying the game as much as I am. Spurs now trying to break away. Clip pass towards the right-hand side. The run made by Mohamed Kudus. Does well there. Good defending from Nathan Ake. Making sure that he's touch tight to the Ghanaian. Again, beautifully done there from Spurs. Looking to secure possession once again. Romero goes all the way back to the goalkeeper. 10 minutes into the second half. The closest City have come has been through an awful error from Vicario. Again, Haaland has to do better, shouldn't he, in that pass? Has to pick that pass better for Ryan Cherki. Again, Spurs playing out the back. This time, they do it well. Again, Palhinha under pressure. And Jeremy Doku nearly nicks the ball away. That is good play from Spurs. They win the second ball and the duel now. Here's Pedro Porro. Lays it off to Kudus now. City backpedaling. Again, City players very slow to get back. Richarlison! Oh, what a ball that is. The defending from Rico Lewis is outstanding because Richarlison's eyes would have lit up from the cross from Pedro Porro. That's very good work there from Rico Lewis. He's not the most physically imposing player, but he makes sure that he's made himself a nuisance for Richarlison. Can't get a clean header to it. Chance there. That was a chance again. Oh, they've given it away. Oh, my goodness. The number of sloppy passes we have seen here has been shocking. Now City on the move here. Oscar Bob. And Haaland immediately sandwiched between the two centre halves. City's passing has been lackluster to say the least. They've been caught under possession now, and Spurs have the overload now. Can they take advantage of it? City thin at the back. Oh, Brennan Johnson, what have you done? He's tried to curl that into the top corner. Thomas Frank will be absolutely furious with that. Yep. Thomas Frank rightfully swears at the Welsh winger. I mean, you're 4v4. If you play your cards right, you're 3-0 up. Instead, you decide to do that. It's shocking from Brennan Johnson. Yes, he might be full of confidence after scoring that goal. But that is something Thomas Frank will be drilling home to Brennan Johnson as to things you cannot be doing. Especially at the home of Manchester City. And even though you're 2-0 up, looking comfortable, you know that getting that third would be invaluable. Look at Kudus go, man. He is such a nightmare to stop. Here's Sarr again. This is much better from Spurs. The way that they just keep the ball in opposition territory. They play a completely different style to Ange Postecoglou, don't they? Still look accomplished on the ball, but defensively solid. They concede more than 60 goals in the league last season. Well over that, I'm sure. Again, they look very fluid. João Palhinha bites into the challenge and wins the ball back. Here's Richarlison outside of the boot pass. Good first touch there from Brennan Johnson. Just gets away. John Stones on the slide. Spurs have City now reeling. Managed to keep the ball again. This is perfect territory again. City do not look threatening whatsoever, do they? They have struggled to break down this resilient and resolute Spurs defense. Kudus again. He's asking for the foul. Won't get the foul, nor will he get the corner. Be out for a goal kick. Rico Lewis has dealt with Mohamed Kudus as well as he could have. So good pass there from Richarlison with the outside of his boot, but he's hit that with power. So Brennan Johnson's first touch had to be a lot more tighter to him. Easier said than done because of the whip on it at the outside of the boot. Here's Doku now. He's been muscled off the ball. Kudus does so well. My goodness, Pep Guardiola looks exasperated on the touchline. It's almost like he's running out of ideas. You can see that when players come on and they start giving the ball away. This looks like a long evening for Manchester City. It's another telling sign, isn't it, when your team are 2-0 down, you need goals, and the two substitutions made are Bernardo Silva and Jeremy Doku, and Phil Foden still can't get in. We're heading into the final half an hour of action. Spurs have done a number on Manchester City here. Pedro Porro will take this free kick, deliver that delicious ball for Richarlison in the second half, which was very well defended by Rico Lewis on that occasion, as Porro towards Richarlison again gets his header towards goal and hits the roof of the net. You can see what Richarlison was trying to do there, just guide that towards the far corner, either hoping for it to loop into the far corner or find a teammate. He feels the last touch might have come off a City player, but instead it's a goal kick and City looking to build out the back again. Here's Reinders. Trafford. Diaz. Ake again. Look at the press from Spurs. You can only applaud that. They are making Manchester City quake in the boots, panic while they're playing out the back. James Trafford does not look comfortable, does he? Pep Guardiola is shooting daggers from the sidelines. He's made his two substitutions 5 minutes into the second half and he hasn't really seen a change. Might be a system issue rather than a personnel one. Can they need to feed their centre forward Haaland really? Haven't done so. 15 minutes into the second half. Here's Kudus now. Again, a nice whip ball in. Richarlison's header again. Well, nearly action replay on that occasion. This time a left-footed ball towards the far stake, aiming for the head of Richarlison. And City, if they're not careful, Spurs will succeed doing that if they keep trying. Again, another long ball here from City. What is going on? They're put under so much pressure. Just hand the ball over to Spurs again. Well, for 85 minutes against Paris Saint-Germain, Tottenham Hotspur were excellent. And 61 minutes. And look at that. In the last 10 minutes, they have 60% of the ball too. At the home of Manchester City. That seldom happens. Here's Doku. Nathan Ake. Spurs back into their defensive shape, almost with 10 behind the ball here. Doku tries to go around the outside. Far too much on it. Not for a goal kick. Pedro Porro does well defensively. He knows that Jeremy Doku will look to feint on the right and then dart towards the byline. He's almost prepared for it. Adjusts his body quickly. The touch was heavy from Jeremy Doku. Well, Pep Guardiola wasting no time really now. He's got Rodri warming up on the sidelines. We might see the Ballon d'Or winner get about 25 minutes here. Phil Foden warming up. As well, will we see the England international here introduced too. So, looks like 2 double substitutions for Pep Guardiola. They've had just the one shot in the second half. Richarlison, if he has broken the offside trap, might be in here, but he hasn't. City do well there, but again, the lack of efforts will be really concerning for Pep Guardiola and Manchester City. Well, they looked at how well they dispatched Wolverhampton Wanderers in the first game of the season. It almost felt like the confidence might have been back in Manchester City in this new season. But this would be a damaging defeat. Lost 4-0 at the Etihad Stadium last season to Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham Hotspur. And about 25 minutes away from back-to-back losses at the Etihad Stadium, this time to Thomas Frank Spurs. Pep still looking for answers, still searching for solutions. Don't think they'll wait a bit more longer. Maybe in the next 5 minutes he'll make that double substitution. But he knows that his team needs that first goal. Doku getting no joy of Pedro Porro. Richarlison looking to run the channel, but well defended there by Ruben Diaz, who finds John Stones now. Stones gives it to Reinders. Again, Reinders has been surrounded by 4 players. Still faces a brilliant line breaker to Haaland, who cannot capitalize. That is an excellent pass from Tiani Reinders, who was surrounded by 4 Spurs players. Still turns and zips that pass in. More of that from a City perspective. Here's Stones. Rico Lewis. 25 minutes remain. That's a very good pass, but too much on it again. Well, I've not seen City players in such a long time overhit so many passes. They're so reliable with their short and medium to long passing generally, but this has been an absolute shambles from them. Here's Vicario, who would have had his heart in his mouth when he made that mistake with that failed pass to Mickey van der Ven. Here's Diaz to Stones. Both centre-halves on the halfway line here, trying to push City back. 25 minutes plus stoppage time remains. City yet to really trouble Vicario in goal in the second half here. Here's Oscar Bob up against Jed Spence. Bob goes around the outside looking for the cutback. Well defended. Brilliant defending from Spence. Well, Destiny Udogie must be watching this from the medical table and wondering how he's going to find his way back into the starting 11 for Spurs. Jed Spence looks every bit the quality fullback that he is. Well, Spurs now looking to affect the game off the bench. A double substitution being introduced. Heavy touch there. Again, it's such a heavy touch. Still managing to keep the ball. Here's Doku now. Good one-touch passing here. Finds Bernardo Silva. It's just so strong there from Kudus. My goodness. He is such a specimen. Pace, power, almost tailor-made for this league. Great switch out there from Palhinha, but it's overhit. And there you have it. Spurs making City scratch their heads here. Mohamed Kudus again could have very easily picked his head up and switched the pass there to Brennan Johnson, who was pretty much by himself. I'm not sure as to why he didn't look to pull the trigger on the pass. But now Spurs on the move here. Richarlison looking to play the first time ball in. Well defended by Ruben Diaz. Look at the Spurs press here. They're 2-0 up at the Etihad Stadium. And they've got 6 players forcing City back. Forcing them to go long. This is not just bravery. This is outstanding coaching. And he's got his players to buy into this. Look at the number 6 here. He's pressing Bernardo Silva. And Bernardo Silva is in his own box. And that's the kind of press that Spurs have deployed on Manchester City. Forcing them long on every occasion. That's a much better pass there from Trafford. Finds Tijani Reinders. Gonzalez. Back to Reinders now. Reinders drives forward with the ball. Gives it to Oscar Bob. Tries to go around the outside. What a challenge again. Well, Cuti Romero seems to have gotten the ball as clearly as he could have. Instead, it's a foul and a yellow card for the Argentine skipper. Let's see whether or not it's a clean challenge. He seems to have gotten something of the ball. He's gotten a huge chunk of it. But seems to have caught. It's a free kick opportunity now for Manchester City. Bernardo Silva on that right hand side, on his left foot, will look to try and swing this towards the far stake. I apologize for any sort of background noise here. There are things happening outside the house that I cannot really control. And it's a free kick now for Manchester City. Bernardo Silva looks to deliver towards the far stake. Oh, Vicario really makes a hash of it. He sees that late. Ruben Diaz cannot divert that on target. Spurs get away with that one. Good work there. Oh, there was a chance there, and I think it was a Spurs player who got his head to it first. He has, and it's a corner here for Manchester City again. Now it's Tijani Reinders who comes across. Just trying to put the pressure on Spurs as much as possible. Get that goal and give them a nightmare 20 minutes right towards the end. A good defensive work again from Spurs. The pressure now being cranked up on Manchester City. Jet Spence concedes yet another corner. Tijani Reinders on his way now. City looking for another corner. Can they look to take advantage of the situation? Ball into the box. It's a shot from distance and Rico Lewis blazes that over. And that's a sight that Thomas Frank will be absolutely loving. Well, 70 minutes on the clock here. City still scratching for answers. There's a real melee in the box here. Richarlison having a scrap now. Pape Sarr doing the right thing and getting him out there. He is temperamental, the Brazilian forward. Pape Sarr is urging him to get out of there. Let's have a look here. It's off the ball, of course. It's an incident. City were almost asking for a foul there because they felt that he was being held back. It was after that where Bernardo Silva, or Nico Gonzalez rather, was just getting into a scrap with Richarlison. You know it's bad when Cuti Romero is playing peacemaker. Yellow card for Nico Gonzalez and Richarlison. 2 yellow cards now. Again, it's off the ball incidents that really does puzzle you. You can understand why City are losing their collective heads because 70 minutes on the clock, they have not troubled Vicario as much as they should have. And in the second half particularly, see that Haaland has been marked out of the game completely. Indecent pass there. Touch from Doku was good. On the right hand side, Heavy touch again. I've not seen Manchester City players having these heavy touches, these uncompleted pass. You can see why Pep Guardiola is fuming at the touchline. I think if he feels that enough is enough, and Rodri now just increasing the tempo of his warm-up. Again, long ball to Erling Haaland, nowhere near. James Trafford in terms of distribution has had an absolute nightmare of a game. Here's Gonzalez. Good pass onto the left-hand side to find Jeremy Doku. And back to Nathan Ake now. Good pass there from Ruben Diaz between the lines, nearly looking to let that go for Haaland. And now Spurs on the break here. Again, it's 4v4. If they get this right, Richarlison finds Brennan Johnson on the left-hand side, who has stayed on side here. How's the ambition from Spurs to try and get bodies into the box? They are conservative, and rightfully so. They're just taking their time with this attack. Bentancur just urges calm and goes all the way back to Mickey van der Ven, forcing City to come out and press again if they can and go long here. Here's Bentancur, back to Vicario. Decent clip pass from him, finds Pedro Porro. This is good passing from the Spurs players here. They're finding their teammates accurately here. Kudus. He'll be so pleased with this performance. Every facet, another clever pass here. Oh, Trafford, what are you doing? Trafford is trying his very best to get dropped for the next game here. Misjudges that horribly and gets away with that one. Well, Pep Guardiola will be shaking his head and looking at Edison as to saying that, get ready, you might be playing the next game here. Oscar Bob doing very well to shove him off the ball, but the foul has been given. Free kick for Spurs. This is a very good ball by Pedro Porro behind the backline of Manchester City. And here Trafford is trying to play the role of sweeper-keeper. He misses out completely. Look at this clever pass here from Pedro Porro. He is onside too, isn't he? Pape Sarr nearly getting his head to it. And James Trafford is caught in no man's land. Not the kind of start the new number one for Manchester City was hoping to have here, as Pep Guardiola has had enough here and makes another double substitution. It's Phil Foden and Rodri Hernandez getting stripped and ready for action here. They have about 15 minutes plus stoppage time to try and salvage this game. Oscar Bob will come off for Phil Foden. Again, it's a like-for-like substitution here from Pep Guardiola. And Nico Gonzalez comes on. And Rodri gets cheered as he makes his way back in the Manchester City colours. Huge ovation for the Ballon d'Or winner from Manchester City. Suffered that ACL injury against Arsenal last season. And Manchester City's season completely fell apart. And now they'll be hoping that their linchpin can come back, get some minutes back into his legs and be the influential midfielder that he has been for Manchester City and Pep Guardiola. 15 minutes plus stoppage time remain. Here's Doku. Decent pass there, trying to find Phil Foden to have his first action. Instead, Couto Romero makes his way back. It's a heavy touch though, gets out of play and out for a corner. Phil Foden's first action will be to take this corner. How's the delivery though? Foden delivers into the box. Again the header, and that is Rodri with his first chance. Good solid header from the Spanish international. The two substitutes nearly combining. Rodri with a free header. Well, he might have done better having got there and could have directed that. Again, Trafford comes off his line. Well, every time Trafford looks to sweep up, he looks nervous, doesn't he? I think the City fans will not be convinced so far. And Foden's delivery to Rodri Hernandez on that occasion was spot on, as Spurs readying a double substitution here. Dominic Solanke will replace Richarlison by the looks of it. Think no surprise there that Richarlison and Dom Solanke, who both combined, Richarlison and Brennan Johnson rather, who both combined for the first goal, will be withdrawn here. Like for like substitutions coming up for Thomas Frank. Brennan Johnson, 32 touches and the all-important goal. Richarlison has had a good performance, hasn't he? He's looked good, held the ball up very well, linking up with his teammates, working tremendously hard to help out defensively. And the like-for-like substitutions have been completed. Richarlison and Johnson have made their way out, and Dominic Solanke and Wilson Odobert make their way for about 12 and a half minutes plus stoppage time to try and see this game out and possibly add the third. Here's Foden. He wins the free kick here. And Phil Foden trying to re-establish his place in the team, regain the trust of Pep Guardiola. Just feels that he has lost this at this moment. Just needs to show what he is all about and why the entire country of England were clamoring for him. Again, City playing such a risky game. Rodri on the slide wins the challenge, and now Foden releases Jeremy Doku on the left-hand side. City committing bodies forward. Look at the Spurs players flooding back. Jeremy Doku on the right-hand side, across the goal. Good challenge. It's a brilliant challenge. Is that Paulinho again? No, it's Vicky van der Ven. Well, Spurs were opened up on that occasion. The big centre-half comes up trumps, and now Spurs looking to launch a quick counter-attack as James Trafford quickly off his line too. City looking for one goal to give them a bit of hope heading in to the last 10 minutes here. Mickey van der Ven with a clutch block here. Jeremy Doku is electric in the box. Decent layoff to Phil Foden, who was looking and hoping that he might have his first goal. What a challenge that is from Mickey van der Ven. Perfect slide challenge in the box. Clean as a whistle. And Phil Foden is just holding his shin here. That was a crunching challenge from Mickey van der Ven. That's what you expect from your centre-half in the box. Well, Spurs have not just scored the goals, but they have shut out Manchester City at home. Thomas Frank will not show it right now, but he'll be beaming inside with pride for the way that they've played in this match. A lot of people would have questioned their mentality after that Super Cup loss on penalties. They did well to recover. And now looking like they have done yet another job on City. Good pass attempt here. Surely has to release that first time to Jeremy Doku. Takes far too long on the ball there to Tijani Reinders. He's hoping for a free kick. He doesn't get it. Reinders has struggled in this match. Good play there from Haaland. You can see that pass which was very well intercepted, and that time Reinders has to play the outside of the boot pass to Doku because Doku has the pace. And if Doku can just burst past, just looking at maybe an opportunity for Manchester City on the break. And it's another yellow card here, and looks like it is for Pedro Porro. Is it for time wasting? I'm not sure. But it is Pedro Porro who gets his name taken down here. Spanish right back, who's had a very good game against first Omar Marmoush and now against Jeremy Doku. Solanke now putting the pressure on his England teammate Trafford. Van der Ven's header is good. That's clever, very good work again. Here's Wilson Odobert now, fresh legs. Can he look to take them on? Breezes past Rodri. Here's the Frenchman now, up against Stones and Rodri doubling up. So is Bernardo Silva. Odobert trying to keep the ball. Instead he knocks the pass off Bernardo Silva for a throw-in. Spurs have the ball exactly where they want this to be, and as it stands, Spurs are on top of the league. 5 goals scored, none conceded. Thomas Frank with 6 points and a +5 goal difference has started life at Tottenham Hotspur in the perfect manner. Again, Kudus is so good there on that occasion, but he can't get his end product right. But the way he just bursts past the challenges, he is a problem. He really is a problem, isn't he? Here's Doku now, trying to do the same, trying to go around the outside, but his ball control isn't as tight as Mohamed Kudus. Again, the City players looking very rusty here. Their passing statistics, I would be very curious to see those. Here's Foden now, dropping between the lines in that pocket. Here's Bernardo Silva, playing as the right winger. The ball gets stuck under the feet of Rico Lewis. Back to Bernardo Silva. The Portuguese finds John Stones, finding himself at the edge of the box here. Here's Rodri to Ake. Quick pass here to Doku, looking to isolate the fullback now. And good doubling up there from Kudus. And now Ake delivers towards the far stick. Header across the face of goal. Clips the crossbar and goes out for a goal kick. Well, Bernardo Silva is just trying to guide that header across goal towards Erling Haaland and hoping for a tap-in with the header. But instead his header doesn't really clip the crossbar. Hits the roof of the net. Yep, he has to do better, doesn't he, Bernardo Silva, in terms of that header. Has to get that straight down the line. And Spurs now looking to exploit Manchester City's high line. You can see Pape Sarr still pressing relentlessly. It's a decent pass again down the right-hand side. Going to get a bit of a move on here. Here's Rodri. Rodri looking to turn here, finds Phil Foden now. Foden caught in his own half. João Palhinha thought about a crunching challenge, decides against it. Stays on his feet, following Phil Foden every step of the way now. Rodri with the switch of play. It's a very good pass to the feet of Jeremy Doku now. Doku looking to add the electricity. Look at Kudus again. Kudus, I think he's going to be my man of the match. They might give it to the goal scorers and the clean sheet takers, but the way Kudus has played over the 90 minutes has been so good, man. Well, City running out of time, running out of ideas. Here's Bernardo Silva. Again, the lack of chance creation in the second half will really concern Pep Guardiola. And it's Phil Foden from distance. Straight down the barrel of Guglielmo Vicario. Vicario looking to keep back-to-back clean sheets in the Premier League. I don't think that happened under Ange Postecoglou, did it? Spurs were notorious of conceding goals because of the high line that Spurs do play. But this is a complete... And I told a lot of people before the season starts that even if Spurs don't make signings, just the appointment of Thomas Frank would make a huge difference because of his philosophy and his mentality. It's not always about pretty football. He wants patterns, he wants passing, but he also demands solidity. Here's Doku now into the box. 5 minutes remain for City. Doku wins a corner. Pedro Porro celebrates that as if he has scored a goal. Doku trying to go around the outside. Gets no joy on it. And now Phil Foden, who created that opportunity with the corner right on the top of the head of Rodri Hernandez. And with just under 5 minutes of normal time remaining, it seems Mohamed Kudus' evening comes to an end, to a deafening round of applause from the Spurs fans who have travelled all the way to Manchester to see this performance. Kudus comes off, and the Swede Lucas Bergwall comes in to shore up the midfield now. Exciting young talent, Lucas Bergwall, as Manchester City looking to find a goal back here. Ball in. Again, they can't get any sort of contact on it. They're looking to break now. Can Spurs take advantage? Here's Pedro Porro. Clever reverse pass. Bergwall is onside. First real touches for the youngster. He's done brilliantly well there. Here's Bergwall. Cut back. Oh, William Odobert. He was running onto the ball. It's a difficult technique because he can't really wrap his foot around it. It's under him, but this is brilliant skill from Lucas Bergwall. Completely drops Rico Lewis on the deck and then finds a good pass. And you can see Wilson Odobert trying to hit that first time. What a decent pass there from Phil Foden. Haaland does well to keep that in play. Here's Bernardo Silva. Again, how quickly they just jump into the challenge. Rico Lewis has to be stronger there or release the ball quickly. He's done well to win the challenge back and he wins the free kick now. Clip pass here for Nathan Ake. Oh, might be a foul there by Bergwall. Oh, it is. Clear foul by Lucas Bergwall on Nathan Ake. It's a nasty one, really. Ooh, it's a bad one on the knee of Nathan Ake. That is a sore one for Ake. And Bergwall seems to have come off second best in the challenge. Ake limps off. City running out of time. 2.5 minutes remain in this match for them. Phil Foden will take this free kick and try and clip this towards the far stick and hope that one of the giants at the back can try and get their head on it. We know that John Stones and Ruben Diaz can make those runs towards the far stick. Rodri might just have a more central role in this free kick. Vicario making sure that the defense are switched on here. 2 minutes plus stoppage time remain. Pep Guardiola unable to break the Spurs. Oh my word, that free kick from Phil Foden is disgusting. I mean, you know that you're trying to get something back. It just lacks any sort of conviction to try and put the ball into the box. You can see quite a few fans exiting the Etihad Stadium early. You don't really see that in the home games for Manchester City unless they're really dispatching the opposition by 5 or 6 goals. Thomas Frank is just elevated his reputation here, going to a top club away from home and putting on a performance like this. Well, the Spurs fans would have been absolutely elated last season when they beat Manchester City 4-0 at this very ground. But this performance will have them smiling from ear to ear. It's not just scoring the 2 goals, but it's the way that they've kept City out. Again, Haaland, you're looking at the chances that he has had in this second half. Again, it's Rodri who's misplacing passes. And that's what I said. Even when the substitutes have come on, their passing hasn't been crisp. And when Rodri starts misplacing passes, that's when you know it's not been your day here. Jeremy Doku looking to combine. They're not looking to find him quickly here. City laborious in possession. Now Doku up against Porro. Trying to go around the outside. Here's Rodri. That's a good pass here to Bernardo Silva. Again, City just lacking pace in the wide area on that right-hand side. It's another clip pass, well defended by Lucas Bergwall. We're into stoppage time very shortly. Spurs have come to the home of the 4P champions who relinquished their title last season to Liverpool and have put in the perfect performance. João Palhinha's evening comes to an end at stoppage time. He scored the all-important second goal just before the half-time whistle. It was in stoppage time of the first half, really. But he has had an excellent game, hasn't he? He's kept Manchester City at bay. And now it's Kevin Danso who introduces himself. And he gets about 3.5 minutes. Pape Sarr looking around. And we talked about man of the match contenders for Tottenham Hotspur. Either one of the centre backs could qualify. Richarlison, again, is another candidate for it. I thought Pape Sarr and Mohamed Kudus were the unsung heroes. Another ball swept into the box. Here's Doku now. Trying to go around the outside. Ake clips the ball towards the far stick. Haaland gets his head to it. Bernardo Silva with a complete miss kick here. And Spurs looking to break. Here's Jet Spence. City taking their time to get back here. It's 3v3 if you look at it. And now it looks a lot more even now. Chet Spence with a huge carry up the pitch. And they have the ball exactly where they want it to be. Pape Sarr looks to protect it and goes all the way back. Spurs looking so much more mature under Thomas Frank. Yes, it's the early stages and maybe people were getting giddy when Ange Postecoglou got off to a very good start to his managerial career at Spurs. But Thomas Frank has been there and done it in the Premier League. And now he's got the tools. And now the expectation, the big club expectation on him. Can he look to do that as he carries on here? Here's Solanke looking to take on Diaz. If he picks his head up, Audeba is there. It's Dominic Solanke. Good save. And Audeba! Big double save to keep it at 2-0. James Trafford doing his best, but Manchester City could have very easily conceded the third goal here. On the break, Dominic Solanke has isolated Ruben Diaz. Goes around the outside. Good strike. It's a decent save by Trafford. The second one is even better because he has to get up quickly and push that away for a corner. Again, Audeba's header doesn't have the power to really trouble Trafford. Well, look at Thomas Frank's reaction. He would have been absolutely delighted if Spurs could have gotten a third. But they have a corner with just over a minute of stoppage time remaining. Spurs are nearly home and dry. Pedro Porro with the ball into the box. City don't clear. Lays it off. Doku trying to drive his team forward. And once again, Spurs recover the ball. What a pass that is from Jet Spence. Outside of his boot. Brilliant. Pedro Porro. What a ball in again. Well, Spurs are turning it on right towards the end. They look more likely to scoring the third than Manchester City are to get one here. City looking for a quick move on here. Again, 10 attempts each for both teams. I don't think City's attempts have been as threatening as Spurs. City have edged possession, but Tottenham Hotspur 10 on 10 in terms of displays. They made that one mistake from Vicario where he made that pass to Van de Ven and could have very easily changed the complexion of the game if Spurs were to concede in the second half. Here's Foden now, again between the lines. Clips that ball into the box, easily gobbled up, and it's Lucas Bergwall who helps out defensively. This would be the final action of the game. Spurs can celebrate here, but they will have to be switched on if they want to keep this clean sheet, as City now have a corner. Final attack surely. Phil Foden's ball into the box. They're trying to get his head on it. Referee has a look at the watch. Allows the game to continue here. Here's Foden again. Can't deliver the ball into the box. Pep Guardiola looks a concerned man at the sidelines. He has seen his team be roundly beaten here at home. Here's Rodri. Reinders. Reinders can't get there again. It's another miscued pass. And Spurs can celebrate as Thomas Frank has his biggest scalp to his new managerial career at Spurs. What a performance. What a result this has been. Outstanding. And look at the celebrations from the fans and the players. They have thoroughly deserved this. Spurs start off perfect in the Premier League. 6 points on the board, 5 goals scored, and none conceded. Perfect from Spurs as they take the top spot temporarily. Brennan Johnson scoring the first, João Palhinha scoring the second, and in the second half they managed to keep City away. All smiles here as Thomas Frank does a number on Pep Guardiola. It's full time here at the Etihad Stadium.